This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, well, welcome everybody to the first Clubhouse chat for Treibball week of 2021. And today we're talking about video titling issues. So I thought we'd start with the issues that we've been seeing coming through competition services. And maybe, we can just pause at each one and people could jump in if they've struggled with this or had runs that they've filmed and had to throw out or whatever, how they've dealt with it. So does that sound like a good plan?
Good plan.
You bet.
Yeah. All right.
Go with it.
All right. So the first thing is the formation. We've had quite a run of issues with the formation this year, and balls too far apart has been the biggest problem. I don't think we've actually had the wrong formation, but we have had quite a few where the balls are too far apart. So just for fun, I thought I'd bring up a picture of a formation where the balls are too far apart. This is just a novice setup. And so what's been happening is that the row 2 balls are off to the side and way more than 6 inches apart. And so that's kind of just an example of something you just need to be really careful of, that you look at the formations in the handbook and that there's not more than 6 inches between any of the balls, except of course in pre-novice when you can have a little bit more room. So that is one of the biggest issues we've had lately. If the balls are too close together, it also can be a problem, especially for breaking the formation and make it really tough on the dogs. And then we've also occasionally seen an issue with mixed ball sizes. So there's a lot to do in terms of making sure that you've got the right balls and the right formation. Anybody have any thoughts on formations? Or?
I just have a question on mixed ball sizes.
Yeah.
How big a range are you allowed?
Oh, Chris will speak to that. She's got that memorized.
I don't have it memorized, but what I can say is in the handbook, I gotcha. Each of the ball sizes, there's a range, and so we want the balls to be within that range. Generally, when we see it, it's a pretty big deal. Someone has, it's pretty noticeable. It's not that it's a big deal. It's pretty noticeable. So you can tell somebody has put in a ball that's a lot smaller or a lot larger than the rest of the balls, and so it usually pops out. It's pretty obvious. But yeah, we want them to be within the range that's listed in the handbook.
Hey, I have a comment there. I buy 65 centimeter balls because one of my dogs is 25 inches tall and one is just under 24 inches tall. I'm finding a huge variety in how they inflate. So I went to 75 centimeter balls, and it's the same thing. I get some 30-inch balls. I get 26-inch balls. They're all labeled 75 centimeters, but they don't look alike once they get inflated. And in trying to get different colors, the quality control is out the window.
Oh, what a bummer.
Very true. I've certainly seen that too. I've even sent one back, said, it was, and I don't remember now because I've bought all different sizes for the classes, but I've bought them and it's supposed to be a 55, and I was lucky to get it up to a 45 size ball. I sent it back because the ball was also very heavy. You've hit it right on the head. The QC is awful for these guys. And that's just, it's something we're all up against, to be sure. And like I say, I've sent them back. Or found somebody who could use a different size ball. Sold it to them.
Well, I usually get mine through Amazon, and I'm scared to send them back because if you send back too many things, they put you on the banned list.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
I can't live without my Amazon.
I'm going to show you guys something real quick that somebody who had balls that really seemed like they were not in the size range. She did, let's see if this will come up. She did a real cool little, used a jump to show us the different balls and how tall they were. And they did all fit into the range, but when you saw the formation, it was, let me see if I can get another shot in here. When you saw the formation, you were like, this has to be 2 sizes of balls, but it wasn't. So that was kind of a very creative and a great way to show us that indeed they were inside the allowable ball range.
Good idea.
Yeah, no, that was really clever. Yeah, and I remember the balls did have some variation, but also her yard is much like my yard. It's not a golf green, and there was up and down parts, and so a smaller ball that was down in a dip would look way smaller than its larger partners. So
Yeah, that makes sense.
just because we question things doesn't mean it's wrong. And that's something that, it's like sometimes we question because it's what we see, and there's ways to show it. Oh, no, it's okay.
Yeah, it's hard to tell in video, which is why we're having this webinar.
Yeah.
But we're sure grateful that, especially during this pandemic, we've been able to do titling by video. It's just been, we were ahead of the curve on that one, huh, guys?
Yep.
All right. Anything else on formations?
Yeah. The other problem I keep coming into is on the balls too close together or too far apart. If you put your point ball and then you go to the second row and you put your middle ball 6 inches from the point ball, then you put the 2 off to the side 6 inches. Now they're no longer 6 inches from the point ball.
You're
You know,
talking
it's
a
like,
larger
where
format.
do you find your 6 inches?
Are you talking the larger formations or the
Yeah,
novice?
I'm talking about where you go 1, 3, 4.
Right. The 1, 3.
You know, if you put them 6 inches apart on each row, they're diagonally no longer 6 inches apart.
Yeah, on that formation, that's
Right.
true. That's okay.
Yeah, yeah, that's one especially where that's true, where it's the 1-3-4 formation, and that's one where I've taken the 1 ball and the middle of the 3 ball formation, I'd make those 6 inches apart, and then I put the 2 side balls 6 inches apart, and you're right, that diagonal won't be.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think it's
clear.
I think it's clear in the handbook that it shows where the 6 inches are
Right.
in the formation.
Although that's a good point. That might be a good thing to try to add to the handbook is where the 6-inch measure would be.
Yeah, good idea. She's making a note of that. Thank you for that, Marianne.
Mm-hmm.
All right, anything else on formations? All right, well, moving on to filming issues. The most common ones we're seeing are the dog or the handler being out of frame on the video, turning the video off before the dog or when the dog downs. That's real common for a beginning videographer to do. Some occasionally not videoing the entry. Issues with camera angles and kind of fisheye views, and then shadows or distance as you get into the higher levels, making it really hard to see, especially the goal line, but also the handler line, the handler area line. So, we do our best to, give you guys the benefit of the doubt. And, one of the things we've talked about in the past is making sure that if you have your dog steering the ball all the way into the goal and you're not out there in the handler area, like right on the line, grabbing the ball, for video titling, it's really best. So that, because it's just too hard to see. And then one other thing was for a goal line and grass in particular, Chris came up with that fabulous idea of a white Christmas garland for showing the handler area in the goal line, that you can really see that on green grass from, from the far end of the field. So that's made a real big difference for us on our grass field. Anybody else want to talk about filming issues they've had, or?
I certainly know it's especially as you get to the higher levels and your camera has to get back further and further to take in everything, it gets hard to make lines that can be seen, or even cones, and have that camera high enough where it can be seen. So I know it's very difficult sometimes, but and especially if you have a yard where part of it's shaded, and so you're out in the sun and then a part's in the shade, and with most cameras that can be very difficult to see if it's at distance. So I know it's very difficult. Been there.
I wanted to ask, do you have a preference if the camera angle is directly, I want to say the word parallel, so that you can see when the ball crosses the handler line? Or would you rather, is there a better angle that you, as many videos as you've seen, that you prefer?
Well, we actually have posted or written in the handbook to put the camera 10 feet behind the point ball, to the side as being a preferable angle. But, with my new phone camera, that does not work. So I, was going to suggest we take that out of the handbook, because I thought everyone's camera must be like mine. But it seemed like for a while that was a great angle for pretty much everybody. But yeah, I'm struggling with that angle. How about other people?
Yeah, I find that it didn't work. I had to be much further back. In particular, using a tripod where nobody's moving the camera to try it. I couldn't get the field in unless I was pretty far out and more toward the end of the field.
Yeah.
While I would love to see the side, I mean, from a judging standpoint, that's much easier to judge. But it is, once you start getting out there in the probably even intermediate, but advanced and masters or expert, you will have to be really far away from the field to do it, to catch the whole field
action. Yeah,
to catch the action.
I tried putting my camera where it was recommended, and I lost so many balls into the pocket, the far pocket.
Yep. That's why I think I filmed, by the end I was filming almost all of them. The camera was pretty much at the end of the far end of the field. It's the only way I could keep everything in.
Okay.
So I guess it depends on your camera, or maybe the cameras are all going the same direction, because like I said, it seemed like at the beginning that was working for everybody, that behind the goal line, and maybe it's just the way all the phone cameras are changing right now. Thanks for the question.
Okay, that helps. I'm guessing that probably maybe that angle only up higher so that you can see the lines I'll experiment. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's all. That's about the best you can do, is experiment and see. And you can always try sending in a test video, and Monica will let you know.
Okay.
It's a great idea to practice video and just a practice run well before you're ready to title, just to practice the filming part too.
Yeah, because sure enough, what I found is, if I cut a corner off from the field or something, it's like the dog knew. It would run off into that corner. It's like, oh.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're on to something.
Marianne, I think you were going to say something about black dogs, right?
Well, black dogs in shadows,
Mm-hmm.
they disappear.
And you have that big tree, you know.
Oh yeah.
All right. So something new that's come up, another kind of category of issues this year has been handler errors where there's no judge there to require the right behavior. And so the two that we've seen have been the dog downing outside of the handler area or not at all, which in a trial, just, live trial couldn't happen. The judge would not call time, right? So you are, doing your own timing. And so you think you're done, but you're not. And then it's the same problem with all the balls have to be in the goal before time is called. And that also wouldn't happen at a trial. If a ball bounced out behind your back, the judge would see it and would not call time. And you'd be like, why isn't she calling time? And then look around and see that ball and get it back into the goal. Those are things that, just making sure that you've reviewed the handbook pretty regularly, and that ball bouncing out of the goal one is you've just got to really make sure you've got all those balls in the goal. I don't know, Chris, do you have anything to add to that as a judge seeing those?
No, I mean that's some we've seen. We saw one where we realized the dog had a harness on.
Right.
It wouldn't happen at a trial. Someone would stop them before they ever came into the ring, and so that's where we've added the right so we can give some handler errors that aren't listed in the rule book. In fact, just because it wouldn't happen at a trial, and so we needed some way to and it's mostly small. It's going to be smaller things, but we can give some penalties now, whereas our only other option would be to throw the run out, and that doesn't seem right just because a judge would prevent that from happening or would stop and have you redo something or fix something, and we didn't want to throw those runs out because you didn't have a judge standing there.
Yeah.
So
Anybody have any questions on that or thoughts?
I have a question as far as, so if we're doing balls in order and the point ball is coming, but because of the break, one of the front balls is coming in too, can we just pitch the wrong one back out, or do we have to actually walk it out?
you would so depending on whether I'm going to give a little bit bigger answer. So when you have that extra ball that's coming in, if no matter what, when it comes in, you will have to kick it back out. If it goes, and one of the first thing I say is if it goes all the way into the goal, because I have seen this more than once, the ball would actually that ball that's before the point ball, it will sometimes actually stop in the handler's area, and that's okay. So then you just let it lie. But if it would roll all the way into the goal, then yes, you have to return it to the field. You don't have to walk it out. You can kick them out. Now, whether it gets you faults or not depends. It depends on a couple of things. If the dog has not pushed it, in other words, they're just pushing the point ball and that ball just got in front, and that ball comes in before the point ball, you won't take any faults. You have to return it to the field, but you don't take any faults for it. If it's coming off the break and it rolls in after the point ball, but it's not the correct one, then you will take some faults for it. But either way, you do have to return it to the field.
Okay, because that's not, the handbook is really kind of questionable, because then sometimes it says you're going to get a fault because you're touching the ball and then you're not getting, it's confusing.
Yeah.
yeah,
It's tricky.
and it's tricky, and it's all around that point ball where it gets dicey. It's all about which order they come in, and whether or not the dog intentionally pushes it, because sometimes the dog misses pushing the point ball first, and they give another one of those balls a hard hit, and the handler gets them redirected to back to the point ball, but they initially hit that wrong ball and it came in. So there's a lot of different factors that play into that one. Did the dog actually hit a incorrect ball? Which order did it come in? Did that extra ball come in before the point ball, or did it roll in after the point ball? So yeah, there's several things that go into that one. It's one that it's kind of dicey.
Probably the best thing
Yeah.
to do would be, if you've got to run with something tricky like that, just pull out, either make an excerpt or give the minute mark that it happens, and post it up on the members' Facebook, and then we can talk it through, because it is, it's tricky, and the rules are of course evolving as circumstances occur that we didn't imagine when we wrote them. Really.
And that is totally legit. And also remember that in that situation, assuming all the rest of the run is fine, you might get faults, but that doesn't mean it's an NQ. It just means you get a few extra seconds added onto your time. So, but yeah, and people have done that. Just post a clip on the members group, and we can talk about it, exactly how that, and then everybody learns from it. So,
okay. Thank you.
I have a question about this. That actually happened on one of my video runs, and I handled it right. Yay! But my question is about the rule about the dog has to lie down while the ball is sent back out to the field. It's not really a problem for my young dog, but my dog that's almost 12, I think he would just stand there. He would stand and stay there while I kicked a ball out. Would that possibly be under consideration in the future, that they wouldn't necessarily have to down?
Okay. Yes. And in fact, and we have very much talked about that. After we put the rules out there and we started watching some runs, it's like, really, do they have to down? Could they sit? Could they just stand in the handler box? And we've decided that that would be fine. And right now, until we get a rule change out on that, just ask for a performance modification request. My dog's old, they can't do that, and it will be granted.
Okay. I just wasn't sure, and
it's for exactly the reasons you said, and it's like, now we certainly, and I now have seen people do this where they, in one of your options is, and of course, is if your dog's out on the field when it happens, you can have them lie down on the field. They don't have to come into you. And that's one where we're probably still going to stick with, it needs to be a down. Otherwise, we can't, it's too hard to tell. Are they dancing around? Is it still or no? I don't know. So that will stay a down. But we have, on the competition standards, we have talked about that, you know what, we really don't care if it's a sit down or stand, as long as they're stationary in that box while the ball goes out. So,
yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, that's good. Perfect.
All right, and let's see, our next thing to talk about was the field setups being incorrect. So some of the issues we've had have been the goal height and location. So the goal not being the full 3 feet and not being centered in the field. The goal sides not being strong enough and being dislodged by a strong pusher, and the field size being inaccurate for the sorry about the noise, you guys, for the level that's being played. So anybody have any Thoughts on any of that? Field setup? I know that's, that's tough. Like setting up these fields is a lot of work.
I actually have a question about if my yard is almost big enough to make a clean field, but there is a pole, like it would be off to the side that would be in the field. Is that acceptable?
Depends on where.
Yeah, so you would want to film some runs with it and send it in. It certainly can't help the game at all. And normally
Okay.
the ruling that we've made normally is that the ball can't hit the obstacle.
Okay.
It's that's when it really depends. If it's down, if it's at the far end of the field, it's just an obstacle. It falls in the category, well, that's your problem. If your dog gets stuck behind it or the ball gets stuck behind it, that's your problem. If it's too close to the goal the goal, where it potentially helps the dog because they could basically play off the pole and get it into the goal, then we're going to say, yeah, no, that's not right. Flip your field. So,
Okay.
yeah, it all just depends. And even you just send in a picture of your feet, what it is, and we'll have an idea. It's fine to have a tree in the field.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Or a fire pit. We've had those before too.
A fire pit, yeah.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
Remind me the farthest you would send your dog out to a point ball. What is that?
50 feet. 50 feet.
50?
50 is the highest.
So I was questioning when I'm setting up my field, why am I setting up all this space way past where the point ball is? Now I can see in an in-person game that the break may go weird, the dog may do some off pushing, whatever, I don't know what you call that, but personally, if I'm at home and my dog has a run that's just going kind of crazy, I'm probably not going to submit that.
Right. You can, you can have a short, you can submit for a ruling for a short field. And the thing will be that the ball can't touch that barrier, right? That back barrier. So if it did roll backwards and hit the back barrier that's only at 60 feet, then you would not be able to submit that run. But you do need to ask for a short field accommodate or ruling on that. Okay. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Good question.
I want to have a shed out in that field, but if I do, I don't have enough room for 75 feet for a Treibball field. So that's my ulterior motive.
Yes, that shed. You need a shed to keep your balls in.
Yep.
Exactly. They're taking up so much space in the garage.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, almost always the answer is send us a picture or a video or something. Give us, and we probably have a way to make a ruling around that, so it's okay. It's almost always the answer.
I have a question.
Yeah.
When you're setting up a field at home, do you have to have it all fenced or corralled in? Or can
no, so read the section on the pop-up fields. So you don't have to have even, you don't have to have anything but the goal sitting in the middle of a field if you want it. If your dog was a completely accurate steerer and the ball would come right into that goal, you don't even need a back fence, right? Of course, that's
the reason I asked is there was mention of a barrier at the back, and I'm going, wait a minute.
Oh,
I'm using the horse arena, and I don't have a barrier. I mean, there's a barrier, but it's much more than the 75 foot.
Right, but you've got it. You're 75 feet marked, right? So if your ball,
I put a cone out there, yeah.
Yeah, if your ball rolled past the 75-foot mark, so then that run would be inadmissible. Yeah. Right. So if it hits the barrier or rolls past a non-existent barrier, to clarify. Thank you, Sandy, for that clarification. All right. Anything else on field setup, guys? Some dog likes the field.
Yeah, we're walking out to our field right now.
Let's see. And then the next bullet point of incorrect equipment, we actually already covered that. Using a harness on the dog. Of course, you know, the pinch collars wouldn't be allowed either, any of that. But that's the one that, yeah, that I had forgotten was in the rule book and I almost made a mistake with one of my students. So, yep, so we covered that. And we can move on to balls in order. So a couple of tricky things with balls in order. The first one is being the color of the balls. Are they visible on the video? So if you say the green ball, you know, first and then the blue ball, but on the video they look exactly the same because of the shadows and the distance, it's going to really be a problem. So here's where, you know, again, practice filming is going to be really helpful for you to go ahead and take that video of your practice runs with all of your balls and then look at it and see, wow, you know, how's that coming across on a sunny day, on a cloudy day, if the ball's in the shade, you know, and we'll do our best. If somewhere in that run we can tell the difference between those two colors, then we will certainly give you the benefit of the doubt that you brought them in order, you know. But if it from the beginning to the end of the run we can't tell the two colors apart, we will have to make it inadmissible. So
and I've seen some cool answers to when they're kind of close in color, you know, and of course, depending on the size of the ball, blue's a common in the smalls, and that yellow green is common in the 55s. But I've seen people do some cool things, and I can't tell you who this was. I've forgotten already. Somebody just recently went out and they were doing novice balls in order, and before they filmed, as they started filming, they walked to the formation and they pointed, point ball blue, number 2 will be the green, number 3 will be the pink, number 4, and they pointed to each one too, so that really helped. It's like, okay, even though they had 2 balls that were kind of close, from that point on, I knew exactly which ones they were talking about. And I know Carolyn actually, she would draw a picture and hold it up, and you know, just with paper, she'd hold it and say, you know, here's the colors, and she'd say them out loud, but also with the picture on there, and then I could see the formation, you know, when it started. It's like, okay, I got it. Yeah, there's an orange and there's a pink, but I know where they were in the formation and I can track them. So there's some clever ways to help out. So, because it's hard to have so many different color balls. And we always recommend, if you've got 2 that are same, if you've got 2 blue balls, make one of them the point ball. Yeah. Because after that, then it's just the other blue ball when it's its time. So
that was helpful, because when I'm home filming alone, and I usually have the camera near the back corner of the field, I can shout and it's still hard for the camera to pick up the ball order that I've shouted. So I wasn't sure. So just make a longer video, however long it takes to walk out, film the balls, walk back, and that's still all uncut video until you start to run.
I like that. I like that a lot.
That's it.
Okay.
I wish I knew who to give credit to, because I just recently, and it's like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Anyone else having struggles with ball colors? All right.
And I'll tell you what, one of the other answers is, if your camera, making really big numbers and then do them in numerical order.
Yeah.
If you make, and it won't work for those little balls. The extra small balls.
No.
But bigger than that, I mean, 6-inch numbers on them, and in several places around the ball, and do them in numerical order, and that can get you around. You know, we just recently did the formation was mixed. You know, it'd be red ball, green 2, green 4, whatever, you know, and that got us through some formations where we had a lot of the same colors.
I think Carolyn had made polka dots too on some of them. So she had like, you know, like the yellow with giant polka dots on it.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
an X, a big X with you know, with some kind of tape.
Yeah. No, that's a good one too.
All right. And then just the one last thing that people don't want to miss when they're doing balls in order is having that cone placed at the rollback distance, so that if you do need to roll a ball back out, that we can make sure you got it back out far enough. So anybody have anything they want to add to that, or we can move on to just what other issues are you having, or questions or thoughts? Let's see. Kind of, did we cover them all, you guys?
That's the first.
Yeah, really? Okay. Well, then, let's see. I had a couple of suggestions to make before we open it up to regular question or to other general questions. Read and reread the handbook. I need to keep rereading it. There's a lot, you know, there's a lot of rules, and there's a lot to think about when you're in the action. So practice filming during your training runs. I think I already mentioned that. You know, don't wait to start filming until your dog is completely trained to do that, you know, that level of title run. You know, when you're still training, start filming it, so that, because you change the way you're acting, you're going to be making calls, you're going to be walking to the camera and back, and it's worth it to start before your dog's even able to do, say, a novice run with no treats. When you're still working with treats out there, just start filming and doing practices. And then, as we already also mentioned, please feel free to submit video to competition services, or post it on the members Facebook group and get a conversation going with any questions, or yeah, to get a feel for it. So all right. Anything else on video titling? Everybody's got it covered. All right, well, why don't we just open up the conversation? Does anybody want to ask any other questions, or share where they're at with their training, struggles and delights? Chris, how's your baby puppy doing?
Oh, he's doing awesome. But we're doing confirmation, so I had to stop and train some stuff for confirmation.
Oh.
That's a first for me.
Okay.
So he's kind of taking a time out from the Treibball training.
Okay.
Right now. He's learning how to stand still. Yeah.
I wanted to, I've gotten confidence now, and I'm going to sign up as a member and start getting ready to send my titling videos in.
Yay.
Cool.
But because I, have to have perfection, I have been working for a while, and my question, and I'll read the handbook over again, but just to clarify, do I need to submit in order of titling, or if I feel that my dog is at maybe past the novice, can I send a video? What am I asking? Can I bypass those titles and submit something for a higher title that I feel he's ready for? Or do I need to do them in order?
So you do need to do novice first. Pre-novice is not required, but yeah, you do need to start with novice.
Okay, all right.
You don't have to do standard first. If you just want to play balls in order, you could do just balls in order, novice, and then go up to intermediate, etc. But yeah, novice title is a requirement for submitting for an intermediate.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we know a lot of us are perfectionists. When we're doing and when we do the videos, we really only want to turn in the perfect videos. Except that if you watched all mine, you'd realize that perhaps I'm not quite the perfectionist. Uh, it's like, oh, I'm gonna take the faults for that. That's
Good
fine.
enough.
Yeah, that's a cue. So you see some perfect runs in mine, but yeah, we encourage you to go ahead and turn it in, even if it's not perfect.
Definitely.
We all want to achieve that, but it doesn't have to be. And in fact, as we've started doing some matches, trying to build up to a trial, it's actually created some judging questions as we go, because like we didn't think of this or that, because it never gets turned in on video. Everybody just, oh, I'm not turning that in. Yet it happens in a live trial, and the reality is a lot of times those things, it is still a qualifying run. So it's nice to have those things to think about from a judging standpoint. Can you get 2 faults from that? Oh, it's definitely brought some things up.
Cool.
So don't feel like it has to be perfect.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Even though many of us do.
We'll always post the link to the best one to Facebook. So.
How many of you have about hit the point where it's too hot for you to trial? How are you, Marianne? Are you still comfortable enough to practice and compete outside?
Well, it was a glorious spring, but the storms completely decimated my ring. And I mean, it blew over the goalpost, it blew over the concrete piers. So I have to reconstruct my ring. And now this week we're going to hit 90 degrees. And I feel like I just lost my window.
Oh no.
There should be some nice days in June, but I'm not looking forward to 90 degrees and gnats.
Me either. I melt.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I have a question. What do you think are the things to watch for when you're training for video titling, but you think, well, someday I might like to go to an in-person trial? So I know there's the perfectionist thing. Oh, that screwed up. That didn't go quite right, so I'll refilm that. No, just stick with it. See, can you make it happen? That kind of thing. Anything else to guard against when doing videos, but wanting to be prepared for in-person if that ever comes?
So I think there's 2 things that happen, and one is just the pure distractions. So many of us are able to do it all at home, versus when you get together as a group or in classes or something. And so you do have to deal with the birds and things like that, but you don't have to deal with other people and dogs walking around and just even being around those. So distractions is definitely one. And along with that, the ability to go to other locations. So many of us train in one place at home, and just the fact that we go to another location and the dog's going to spend their first run looking around going, hey, what's all this about? So just going to some other place, whatever it might be, a tennis court, not in use, a park, someplace where you can, going to somebody else's backyard, moving around and getting to other places. We've definitely seen that here in our group, where we go, we try out a different training facility, And our dogs, a lot of them look around like, I've never played this sport before. What are you talking about? So that's one thing. And it's very embarrassing. um, and so even if you've got anybody near you, so you guys can just even get together, that's a real positive thing to happen. And then probably the second thing, it goes back to that perfectionism. What you were talking about is you tend to go, well, never mind. Well, you know what? When you pay, whatever, 15, 20 bucks at a trial, you're not going to, oh, well, never mind. Come on, dog, let's leave the ring. You're actually going to be thinking, I need to make this work. And so having the strategy, well, what am I going to do if my dog goes over on the side and finds a smelly trail where maybe the mice have run up and down the edge of the building? Or my dog runs over to the gate to see who's outside the field to deal, what are you going to do? How are you going to get them back?
Well, and also being comfortable, like just handling the rules, knowing when to roll a ball back or when to let it stay sitting where it is.
Yes.
Play through that stuff when you're practicing.
Yes. The number of times where, somebody has, just the one I was saying earlier, just because an incorrect ball heads for the goal doesn't, we so often, okay, better stop that, gonna have to kick it back out. Well, the reality is I see the balls take a weird corkscrew, roll, instead they rolled off to the side, or they flat out stopped in the handler box. Playing those things through and going, oh, wait, this is still all fine. Playing through that wrong ball. Okay, what do I need to do? Come in, lie down, dog, roll it out, play through it, and think through what do I need to do as a handler if this was a real thing and I don't just get to say, oh, never mind, reset. Play it through. It may still be a bad video. You won't turn it in maybe, but you thought things through and you were ready for it. Definitely. That's the two things that will make a difference for you. And you learn things like, boy, I tend to stand right at the very edge of the handler line. And so then that wrong ball coming in may even hit you. It was like, you know what, if you were standing further back, that wouldn't happen. Or if you stand further back, you're not as likely to step over by accident. So you start seeing those things as you actually try to play through the game, regardless of what happens. What are you going to do if you're in, let's pick one where you have more time, advanced, and you have whatever, 4 minutes, I don't know. I'm making up the numbers. It's been too long. You got 4 minutes, and your dog spends a full minute pushing the point ball around the field until they finally get there. In their excitement, in their insanity, things don't go well. You're not going to walk out the ring. You're going, well, that was 1 minute. Now I got to get the rest. You still got to say, good dog. So play it through. Play it through. Oh, wow. What a good picture.
I'm playing
That's
around.
A huge dog.
What breed is that?
You know what? I'm blanking on what his breed was.
Is it a Leonberger?
Yes, a Leonberger. Thank you.
It's a Leonberger. Wow. That's fun.
Yeah, he was not that inspired about Treibball. He was very slow, but she had fun with him.
How fun is that? Cool. Hey, Sandy and Margaret, anything, because Margaret, you're right, play through. Anything else that you've thought of now that we've done some of these matches? What made a difference?
Well, for me, number one was like actually knowing the rules, so we could handle the balls in order type odd things that happen. The distractions have been huge because it's like when we set up our match, we actually put a curtain up. to sort of sew a net up so that it would make the dog that was competing feel less distracted, we thought, but they could still hear what was going on in the other side of that wall. They knew. It helped, but they knew. So working with distractions and letting your dog know it's okay, we're just here, we're just playing this game. Don't worry about that other stuff that's going on. Those are the big things. I mean, just learn, and like Chris said, going and competing in different places. My dogs do really well in my backyard, and then we go to the training facility, which still feels like a home court. We play there a lot, but it's a totally different game to them. It's not their backyard anymore. And so the thought of going, out of town to someplace else, that would be really hard unless we practice playing in different places. Mm-hmm. So I'm hoping in the coming months, now that COVID is lightening up, we can get together locally at different people's houses. One, just to have a good time, but to give the dogs experience playing in different environments. It makes them stronger, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So thinking about this now with going to a trial, and you said in your fun run sometimes the dogs are like they never played this game before. So I think that's would be my case. So let's say that there's a trial that I could come to. Morgan would be in the standard. She would be in advanced. Could she just roll back to like intermediate instead of going to advanced? Because where she in a strange environment might have a chance to do that, but may not have it together long enough to do an advanced. So, I mean, she already has her intermediate title.
Yeah. So things I would even consider, and we had people doing it even at the match because while we have different classes, we had the match. All of them, and they were still there with dogs they didn't know, they hadn't seen before. And an option is to just even go pre-novice and bring and your FEO for exhibition only.
Yeah.
And
yeah. Oh, right. So you could do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Go enter pre-novice, bring the treats in the ring, and say, welcome to a new place, honey.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we
right.
remember
So
we have outstanding titles, Harriet, which so you could work toward an outstanding novice title and go for 9 more cues. Is it 9 or 10? I'll just blank. 10.
I think it's 10.
Yeah, go for 10 more cues in novice, and get a ribbon that has purple on it.
Yeah. So that would be nice. The ribbon would be the most important. Would be being able to do something where she could have some success, and actually where her handler could have some success too.
Absolutely, really great question. Yep. I'm so glad you mentioned that.
Yeah.
And I have a point of clarification.
And what I love about
outstanding.
Yep.
Yeah. I thought as I read the rule book, you could only go back one level on outstanding in terms of at least collecting qualifying runs. So
that's what I think too.
Yeah. So if you didn't do it at novice or intermediate and you're working advanced, you can't go back to novice and pick up your outstanding title.
Oh, you can't. Oh, Margaret, thank you for carefully reading the handbook.
Well,
but you can do for exhibition only.
Yeah, but you can do exhibition only.
Yeah. Because I took an expert dog and let her do novice because she's very much a veteran and is mostly retired. And she had a blast, but it was not for qualifying runs.
Yeah.
So for exhibition only, is that something that always happens, or does that depend on the host of the trial?
So in real life, that would depend on the host of the trial. So when that day comes that we have so many Treibballers and we fill with people who are not for exhibition only, it'll be a thing. But right now, That's not the case.
We don't need to worry about that for a little while.
It was a
So,
match,
so
not
you're
maybe
saying
wanting to
we
donate money
could
to the
do
club.
more than one.
Yeah. So that was something I
Give
haven't
them your
brought it
money.
up to.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to come pay us? Oh, honey, come on. One that just occurred to me, occurred to all of us as we were looking at our match and trial. There is no, when we look at agility and scent work and all these things, you can only enter usually a dog once at a particular level in a particular game for that day, for that trial. Because in agility, you don't get to run the course twice. It's not the same. But we realized that, in Treibball, a novice run always looks like a novice run. So if you wanted to come even at a trial and enter your dog 2 or 3 times at the same trial, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to do that. So it just, that doesn't mean you necessarily want to go to a new field and on the first time bet 3 runs. But it's basically an option that can be out there.
Good. Thanks.
All right. Well, we're just about out of time. Any last thoughts, folks? Well, thank you all for joining us today, and really appreciate it.
Thank you, Monica.
Thank you.
Yep,
Monica.
thanks for having it.
Yeah, great. All right. Well, maybe we'll see some of you on Thursday.
Some new people.
Yep.
Yeah, and thanks
Sure.
for coming, everybody who came from who hasn't become a member yet, and great to see all of you who I recognize. So, all righty.
See you.
Happy Treibball Week.
All right.
Thank
Okay.
you.
All right. Thanks.
Bye, you guys.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.